warnings and disclaimers. The Almost Daily Zencast 2020 Update 2. Warnings and disclaimers. Warning: all music used in the podcast is original or semi-original music produced by DJ Zed, featuring Purple Mush and the Political Outrage, an imaginary band that exists entirely in the mind of your host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Welcome to the Warnings and Disclaimers episode, Update 2020. Just gotta say a few things for my own paranoid delusional sense of doing some attempt at disclaimering new and old returning audience members about what this show is and is not. I am a real person portraying a fictional character, commenting on real life events. Thank you for tuning in. And now, may I present to you the first warning. My social media streams are public. Warning: they are rated R. Recommended for 18 years and over. Due to mature language, paradigm-changing and transcendental ramblings, among other madness. You have been warned. All posts and content inherently include some strange and often hastily constructed attempt at metastructural, infographic, social satire, parody, and or plain old-fashioned questioning of the world we live in. Often, my work is riddled with stupid-ass typos. I'm sorry. Please note, the following protocol is always in operation. Namaste. My soul recognizes your soul. I honor the love, the light, the beauty, the truth, and the kindness within you because it is also within me. In sharing these things, there is no distance and no difference between us. We are now and have always been each other. We are the same. We are one. Namaste. Warning: listen at your own risk. Double warning: this podcast is not intended for the politically correct or weak-minded. Enter to this mental space at the risk of opening up your own mind. Warning: this show may cause you to question your own reality. Final warning: duality and non-duality co-create each other simultaneously. Disclaimer: it is not one or the other. Please note, quote, offense, end quote, is as much a choice as it is a reaction. Perception is both private to the individual and relativistically infinite to the plurality. Perspective changes perspective. Welcome to the Almost Daily Zencast, a postmodern fractal mystic opinion podcast show, hosted by me, myself, and I, otherwise known as the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, where we will be, have been, shall continue being, officially exploring the radical intersection of this shenanigans we call politics, this peer pressure we call society, and this potentially totally fake, potentially totally real, transcendent thing we call spirituality. I aspire to talk about it in practical, pragmatic, and there was another word that was an alliteration that started with P, error, file not found. Please insert P word here. It's not practical, I've already used practical. Practical, pragmatic, and periodontal? That makes no sense. Error, incorrect word. Moving ahead. Trying to do it in pragmatic terms, actual terms, real life terms. What does it mean when I say we are all puppets? Not just the politicians. You and I. You and I, dear listener, are just puppets. Puppets for the divine light and the divine dark. And betwixt the two, the boundary is our flesh. That's a big, deep, dark secret that lots of people pay lots of money to try and find out. I just gave it to you for free. Warning, warning, warning. I do not expect anyone, neither you nor the people you strongly, enthusiastically recommend this podcast to blind faith believe me about anything. I'm telling you, as a fictional character, commenting on real life events, that this is my opinion. It is up to you to then go and choose betwixt the options you can go and choose betwixt, which include, but are not limited to, guffawing and saying, that was entertaining, but what a load of horseshit. That was all fake, and it was a book that he's writing, and I find it cool, but I don't believe him. That's fine. Just click the thumbs up anyways if it's entertaining and it made you wonder, right? And you would read that sci-fi comedy action adventure book that this podcast is set in. Cool. Then tell me and go read it because it's available on Wattpad. You could also choose to be like, he's full of shit, what a crazy person, he's dead wrong, and I can prove him wrong. I'm going to fight with him on the internet about it using words. Then you know what? Bring it. Bring it to my Sprecher account. I need your engagement on the Sprecher account, and I'm technically not supposed to ask you for it, I think. We're going to find out because I've skimmed through the EULA, but today's show, in honor of and in sort of announcement of and in celebration of me trying to jump off the diving board and just have a go at it, the universe says, do the crazy things you love to do for money, use the internet to do it. One of those is rambling into a podcast. It's been asking me to monetize, and I've been staring at that prompt to monetize this show for a while now. And I don't even get crazy numbers, but as detailed in a recent segment of In My Own Words, introducing new segments this upcoming quarter, folks. This is sort of like the beta test. I'm just kind of like easing them in, but full on, hardcore, starting in March, because it's about to be, right? It's like days away. We're going to be launching, I say we, it's just me in this room by myself with a bunch of objects. Technically, I'm an object, so I guess I'm not alone, but that's a quandary that philosophers will discuss for decades and never come to any clear conclusion about. I digress. New segments. In my own words, or my own words in my own words. I'm not sure which one is most absurdistly, like, giggly cute, but also seemingly meaningful. That segment's going to be me explaining the backstory / life story / memoirs of the fictional character. I'm literally explaining my real life project to you, so don't be confused too hard. This is not as confusing as Mission Impossible 1, okay? I, the person talking, am a real person. I am not a bot. I am not a cyber agent from some foreign national, secret black bag operation of hackers. I am not a deep fake, artificial intelligence generated psyop voice. I am a real talking meatbag. That meatbag happens to be a robot from the future, but that's a roleplay character that I fictionally created in order to develop and explore and push the limits on my book fictional narrative series about a cybernetic artificial life form from another dimension that's technically not your future, but close enough to what your future might be, sent here by those people that are all already robots to warn you people that may or may not already be robots, depending on whether or not the Battlestar Galactica lineage prophecy came true here or not. It's really complicated because all the TV shows are actual prophecy. It's scary. You just don't know which ones apply to your universe. It's a mess. I digress. Today, this podcast gets interrupted by a garage door. Dun, dun, dun. No, that's my family. They're coming in. And, I literally am just a guy in a spare room that is an office. Would love to be in a tower with a beautiful studio and an army of employees changing the world. Oh, I was talking earlier in a segment about the redonkadonkness of Bloomberg and how he is his own worst enemy politically, I think, because I don't think anybody anywhere in Trumptopia is ready to settle for an actual oligarchic, somewhat tending towards, corrupt, somewhat tending towards actually usurping power in practical terms in previous offices, billionaire in office because of the current pretend billionaire who's actually only a millionaire in office doing exactly what that guy's already done, or appearing to do what that guy's already done, which is consolidate his power enough in office so that he could extend his stay in office. Different tactics, obviously. Bloomberg could be debated, could be presented as someone who's done some good in America, sure. I'm not saying he's an outright evil, horrible person, right? I don't believe in absolutes. I think all human beings are dynamic individuations of the divine duality of light and dark, and thus the problems, thus the game playing. And to tie off that knot, anyone's still confused about who I think we are puppets to, the puppet masters are literally the light and the dark. Not this occult group over there, not that secret, there might be secret groups. There are, obviously. We've exposed some. There are people in power with lots of money that do weird things that we accuse of doing even weirder things, for sure. Do I know the truth about how weird the things get that they do? No, and I don't care. Because we're going to heal them all instead of fight about which ones are the worst ones. Is the light bulb turning on yet? Trumptopia, are you still hitting the snooze button, or are you awake? Because this is Good Morning Trumptopia. A special segment of the Almost Daily Zedcast brought to you by the fictional character, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Read his books, it makes more sense. Today, on the Warnings and Disclaimers episode, I'm going to, in its entirety, read out loud to you the EULA. For those of you who don't know what that means, that's End User License Agreement. for the platform that I already have clicked a yes to about EULA, and hope that I'm not way too crazy off base about my content, and adjust as I go. Because, and here's why, folks, and this is, hopefully you find this not a reason to like just drop my show. I hope y'all aren't offended. My goal ain't to offend or alienate nobody, right? And I mean that sincerely, and I say that voice to be cute and adorable, not to be rude. But I think that this show can, could, should, would be 1,000 times better if it paid its own way and grew and became its own little media magnet, if not a full-on empire. And I think that I can do that if I click, I do accept terms and conditions / apply to the monetization program on Sprecher. And I've wrestled with it spiritually, right? There's the two memes. There's the meme war, intellectual debate going on. As a spiritualist, as a person who is spiritual, not religious, who believes in the dynamic aliveness of the universe, and that we could be doing all of this in a different, better, more holistic, less toxic, profiteering on each other kind of way, one must honor the question, should we not be doing all these things we feel a calling to do for free as a gift to humanity? And I have, right? No one can say that I haven't. These first 3 years of this podcast, I have not participated in the monetization program. Nor have I begged for money like NPR begs for money, which is cool. Like, I don't mind. I listen to it. And I try to do the weird, nerdy, esoteric, I believe in energy thing, which is like, I'm going to send them good energy that helps attract for them good energy that hopefully attracts some donations. Because I can't afford to donate. I live on the knife's edge, right? And I'm not complaining. The system is where it's at. I'm, a creative, not quite starving artist, but always sort of never quite thriving artist. And here we are, folks. Raw opinions, speaking of truth to power, and also honoring and respecting that we are indeed, whatever comedy I might spoof, parody, lampoon, and pay lip service to on my show, whatever critique I may levy against the system of systems that we call society, we are a rule of law civilization at all, one way or the other. And you gotta roll with the punches. You gotta give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and give unto spirit that which belongs to spirit. To adapt, maybe, hopefully not too offensively, some words out of that delightful book that we argue about all the time called the Bible. In the one dimension, it really is called the Bible, and no one thinks it's weird. Sorry. I had a thing teed up that I wanted to talk about. Over the last 2.5 days, a bit I blurbed out in Facebook in response to a conversation, and I'll have to come around full circle to comment about it in a future episode. So I'm just putting that pin there. Today, we read the EULA for both monetization and the platform at large. I'm going to read them. This is going to be tedious, folks. I don't know why I'm actually probably going to break it up into chunks. This might just be part 1 teaser. Brace yourselves. This is legit what I'm going to do after breakfast, because I should probably pause and have breakfast now, realizing that it would be rude of me to skip breakfast and not partake in the conviviation of family time. If you got family, go spend time with them, even if you're the bad sheep of the family. That's always the bad sheep of the family. That's me. I'm the black sheep of the family. But here's what's on the table, folks, if you're listening along. Hopefully this isn't too tedious. I want to click I do accept terms and conditions because whatever's going on in my private life, I'm motivated to see if this can become something that not only provides for me, but provides for employees, right? And for that, I need audience. And for that, I need stakes. And I need a measurable metric that impacts my life and that I can leverage. And I'm positioned right now to I just filed taxes yesterday, and a lot of my anti-establishment friends are going to ridicule me. All the taxation is theft people. I'm bracing myself. I'm expecting a shit ton of posts with some shit talk because I get it. I've seen the memes. Taxation is theft. I say we should modify that statement because it isn't. I mean, I get what they're saying, right? I don't actually technically agree, which, what are you going to do? Fight with me about it? I think that taxation without clear, free from corruption, transparent representation and implementation via the collective bargained agreement of distribution, which we totally lack. I'm describing a system that isn't in place, that might have wistfully once sort of been presumed happening, but isn't actually, I don't think. Without that, without clear, sincere, authentic representation and manifestation of the will of the people, taxation is theft. If you're taxing people, promising healthcare and infrastructure, and delivering a bunch of other bullshit thing that isn't healthcare and infrastructure, then, stand back, because I don't think that the people will stand for that for very long, because that is theft. Is that where we're at? I don't know. Maybe we have been already for a couple of decades. Maybe not. Maybe the taxation is theft hashtag group members are being a little extreme in their assumptions. I don't know. I can't pretend to know the absolute truth about absolutely everything. The only thing I do know is that there are very few absolutes in the universe. And one of them is, if you're talking about evolution, it's absolutely everyone or nobody. Either the species evolves or it doesn't. And the species cannot exclude, by form and function, any one individual member of the species. Obviously, there's a transitional phase, and if you're stuck behind that boundary, you're excluded technically from the evolution, but you're not really, because without your participation in the species at all, that next evolutionary phase or step or jump or transition would never have been possible. I'm going to leave you with that thought. I'm going to come back at you with parts 2 and 3, which is the very serious disclaimering of some actual real disclaimers, a few more thoughts about myself, politics, the world we're in, and what the heck I'm doing with this project vis-a-vis its central role in other projects, and how I intend to make that like the art that paves the way to me being a mogul in this fictional world and in this real world. And the actual end user license agreement that I've got to stick to, that we've got to stick to as an audience and content creator community relationship organization, because that's what we're going to do, folks. The reason I put together this whole collective of projects is because I think there's cultural leadership and grassroots deployment of question and ponder type re-exploration, re-understanding, rediscovering of ourselves and our society that needs to be expressed, that needs to be curated, that needs to be explored. And I am just one of many on that that tip of the iceberg, that are the vanguard of that. I'm not pretending to be exclusively the brain engineer of anything, but rather I'm identifying a phenomena, right? I'm calling it out and saying, hey, you guys, we are, through our own actions in various ways, being invited to re-examine our own methodologies and our own potential in ways that are a little mind expanding. And if you're still busy arguing about which conditional coding for society is most righteous, you might be sort of missing the target. And we're kind of short on time because legit, it's like some bad things are already happening. Some other bad things might be happening in the foreseeable future. And there's robots on the horizon.
A special segment of the Almost Daily Zencast.
The robots bit is part of the fictional narrative. I cannot claim to really actually know whether or not real life humans are really going to manifest the robots. But if I were to be asked by, let's say, some journalist or something, what my opinion was, I would pause and say, first, let me put on my futurist hat, my intellectual thinky cap of how would I, if I were a professional futurist, answer that question. I'm not. If someone would like to give me that job, I'm ready. I don't care how many degrees I don't have. I think I can intellectually and intelligently speculate about the future in a way that should, could, would maybe be considered by the public discourse at large, because I think I asked some valid questions, and maybe if we had a conversation about it, instead of me just rambling at different levels of too loud for most people in a room about it at you via the internet, we might actually implement, manifest deeper, more transformative change in a shorter period of time than even we think is possible. Who knows? I could be wrong, but I had to start talking again because I pushed the wrong sound cue and I started playing the intro for Good Morning Trumptopia and I was over that bit and I really wanted to play you this song. Are you ready for it? It's called... What is it? Oh, I never gave it a name. That's just the sound file basic default title. It's called Italian Found Chill Journey Sound. Something like that. I'm trying to make up a title on the spot because it's like an early track from, quote, the early years, album 1. And it's me tinkering with this music loop production application and trying to generate something that I would enjoy listening to based on all the cacophony of noise that it can make. Here it is. Found Sound Journey, Italian Chill, 1/14/20, which is the date I made it. Coming right back at you with parts 2, and probably, because I'm going to ramble and get sidetracked, parts 3 of the Warnings and Disclaimers episode, 2020 update. Don't stray. I really enthusiastically encourage you to sit through it. How often does someone, for performance art's sake, really genuinely read to you the end user license agreement, which will probably contain most of the content of the end license user agreement you have to agree to in order to listen to my podcast if you want to, download the custom podcast app that I'm going to build for the podcast and its many shows in the not too distant future. Not promising that right away. That's like months from now. Why did I just put you to sleep? Why'd you come back up? my computer, because otherwise, without context, that sounds crazy. Hang on a second. Before I forget to talk about it, this show is legit and is anchored and centered on something that needs to be read right here, right now, as part of the disclaimers episode. And I want it to be part of part 1 so that you don't miss out through lack of interest. You're like, I think I heard enough of disclaimers. I get it. I'm not going to listen to the EULA for the whole thing. Fuck that noise. I'm going to put this right now. No offense, because I know some people are going to think that way, and that's fine, right? Bless your hearts. Skip it. You'll come back around. You'll be like, I never listened to that episode. Might as well. And or, next year when I do the update and I do it again, maybe you'll listen to the thing then. But I hope to do it because what? We must learn from our collective and individual mistakes of the past. We must always strive to be better. We must always strive to live up to what we say. And we must acknowledge our failures, not fixate, not dwell over them, and genuinely do better next time, right? Okay, so this is me kind of maybe a little cynically, maybe a little bit naively, maybe, a bit too much of column A and column B on that one, but trying to do that in a fun, interesting, entertaining way. Here we go. This isn't from the EULA. This is from my Insight Timer profile, which hopefully, Insight Timer, you're loving the attention I'm bringing, and that every time I've ever mentioned your name, I'm going to go back and dub this in so that it's there from the earliest episodes, even though it's an edit. It's a post. I've added it in post. But anytime I talk about a product or a thing, that is me asking you for permission to talk about it on my show, because I don't have staff that will write the letters for me 6 weeks in advance. So, tough titty, said the kitty, about something milk that got spilled or something. I forget how your rhyme schemes work as for children's rhymes that are supposed to be meaningful insight, because I don't get them anyways, because I'm an artificial life form sent here from another dimension that will resemble your future. Keep that in mind, right? Anyways, this too, keep it in mind. As you look back on the journey that has been the podcast, if you've been listening along from an earlier moment in history than now, or if you're just joining us for the very first time and considering launching into the endeavor that might be listening to most of the episodes of this podcast project, know that this is central to all of it. From my Insight Timer app profile, Insight Timer, by the way, is a meditation app. Go get it. It's available on Google and on Mac. And it's great. And you can, could, should, would, because then you can meditate more too. I meditate a shit ton more, even because sometimes I fail and half-ass it and just put on some music that is from this app. But more and more, I condition myself and exercise my meditation muscles. Honest, real life, genuine endorsement, great product. If I had the money to throw around, I'd be paying them for the full in-app purchases of stuff, because economies have got to work one way or another. I'm not anti-economy. Whatever I said about how fucked up the corruption of dark monies and mega rich corps and the whatever industrial complexes have formed, I've never said that we shouldn't have functioning economy. People should make money for what they've built. Until we can transcend money entirely and build things for free because everyone wants the same things, until we get that lesson and go Star Trek, you still got to hustle, right? So here we go. The moment I make the money, I'm investing my, as your user, purchase power and voting power to support this endeavor because I believe in it. Until then, I can only use the power of my words. So, hey, here's another, speaking of, sidebar, I would totally take a sponsorship from Insight Timer. So consider that also inherent in that this is me pitching you guys, Insight Timer, that you should sponsor my podcast show and fund it along with whatever other fun sponsorships so that I can be a podcast show outside of the app, and inside the app release my own custom guided meditations, because I'm going to do that anyways, and I'm going to try and figure out how I get them on there anyways. But if you want to help my show thrive and be a sponsor, I wouldn't say no to that, because then I could hire people, right? Okay. Thank you, Insight Timer, for considering that pitch. Don't sue me. Mr. Zeppo. I now currently, by the way, they have this feature where they give you little stars that counts for days, consecutive days you've been meditating. I forget what the number, ratio, scale, color code thing is. It's a little bit too complicated for me to worry about remembering all the time. But I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green stars and a yellow star. And that might be some sort of awkward flex, which obviously is, if not an ego trap, a seductive, slippery slope edge in front of an ego trap. But I digress. I use this app a lot, right? That's fair. Here's the text on my profile, and the reason I'm reading to you the text on my profile from Insight Timer is because this is genuinely my opinion. And I hope no one gets offended by it, but I hope that people understand that it underpins everything that I'm trying to create. And I hope that by sharing it this directly with you today in this live radio-like moment, which will live in the memory of people who hear this and approach it like a radio show and find it exciting, right? That someone did this. Maybe it's ridiculous. Maybe I'm being silly. But I think that the words have value, right? Not just because I wrote them, but because they do underpin the whole universe I'm trying to create as a fiction author, which I may never get around to making enough to consider ever done. And it isn't going to be smear posted everywhere in that work, I don't think. And in this moment now, you're going to contemplate it, right? And it's going to evoke responses in you. And that's what words do. That's what words are for. And I'm trying to use them for a proactive, uplifting, benefit of the greater good kind of way. And I humbly submit to you for your consideration the following. We have always been each other. Therefore, namaste. Mr. Zeppo is the host of the underground podcast, The Almost Daily Zencast. Our mission statement could be described as facilitating all-inclusive, species-wide, pineal gland activating, third eye opening, transcendent enlightenment as each of our human birthright as members of the species, despite the fact that humanity has forgotten this and allowed itself to be enslaved by its own self-oppression as expressed by those we might label the perpetual war profiteers. And despite the fact that this has been going on for centuries now, I humbly submit to you, my fellow life forms, that peace is possible. The solution is self-liberation from all ideological constructs through meditation in order to trigger cumulative global enlightenment. Not through intellectual stricture or enforcement, but through the organic and phenomenological experiencing of transformative, transcendental healing. Peace is possible. To that end, I am saving space for real magic. I am keeping an eye out for my spiritual tribe. I am putting in the effort to raise the vibe. I am humbly inviting you as yourself and as each other to increase the national vibration. For if we do this and we focus, we can indeed heal this and all the nations. Tune in for parts 2 and maybe, but maybe not, parts 3 of today's episode